Hey everyone using PantheonAI. Are you ready for a deep dive into what's happening in the markets today? We're looking at the morning briefing from January 27th, 2025, with all the important financial stuff you need to know.
Yeah, it's really like getting a sneak peek behind the scenes of what's moving the markets. We're going to break down the big trends and help you understand the connections.
Exactly. And hopefully we'll all have some of those aha moments along the way as we try to understand this crazy market.
That's right.
So let's start with a look at those major indices. The briefing mentions some dips across the board. I'm seeing red for the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the Russell 2000.
Yeah, and it looks like while all of those are down, the Nasdaq is down even more, like over 0.5%. And even Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're retreating a little.
Hmm.
It seems like investors might be a little hesitant to take big risks right now.
Okay, so like a risk-off feeling is it, what they call it in the financial world. But what's causing all this uncertainty? The briefing mentions some struggles in the tech sector. What's that about?
Well, earnings season is always a bit unpredictable. Sometimes good, sometimes not. And we're seeing a mix of results from some of the major tech companies.
Hmm.
And that's making investors a little cautious, I think. And on top of that, there are some growing concerns about regulations, especially in the world of AI, which is changing so fast.
Right.
So it's kind of like a push and pull between innovation and making sure everything's okay.
Yeah, it's like everyone is figuring out the rules of the game while the technology keeps advancing.
Exactly.
Speaking of tech, the briefing specifically calls out Nvidia, and it seems like they're facing some challenges.
Yeah, Nvidia is a good example of how quickly things can change for a company.
Yeah.
Investors were really optimistic about their AI capabilities at first, but now there's some pushback, and that's definitely affecting their stock price.
So it's not enough to just have some cool new technology. You got to actually deliver and meet those expectations, especially in the AI space.
That's for sure.
And speaking of high expectations, this whole DeepSeek situation sounds like a wild ride. What exactly happened there?
Well, DeepSeek was this hot new company working on AI-powered nuclear technology, so there was a ton of hype.
I bet.
And valuations for microchip companies, which is super important for AI, they went way up.
Right.
Everyone was expecting huge breakthroughs, but those results just haven't happened yet, so now those valuations are being reevaluated.
So it's like that saying, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Right.
Investors get excited about the potential, but when the reality doesn't match, they pull back. This DeepSeek story is a great reminder for all of us to look beyond the headlines and really understand a company's basics before we invest. Don't let the AI hype cloud your judgment.
Exactly. It's important to remember that not all innovation turns into profit.
True, true.
Yeah.
And speaking of companies with mixed results, the briefing mentions SoFi. They've added a ton of new subscribers, but their stock is actually down.
Right.
That seems a little strange what's going on there.
Well, SoFi is a big name in fintech, and they're
Yeah.
definitely growing their customer base. That's impressive. But when it comes to earnings season, investors are laser focused on profits. And SoFi's outlook on that front wasn't as good as everyone hoped.
Uh-huh.
Basically, they're not expected to make as much money as Wall Street thought they would.
So even though they're getting more customers, the question is, can they turn that growth into actual profits? Investors want to see a return on their investment, so profitability is key.
Definitely.
It reminds us that even good news can't always outweigh worries about a company's financial performance.
It's all about the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the energy sector. What's the latest there?
Well, it seems like oil prices are down a bit, and that's because President Trump decided to pause those tariffs on Colombian crude.
Interesting. So a political move can actually affect global commodity prices.
Right.
It really shows how everything's connected, doesn't it?
For sure. And this easing of the geopolitical tension probably makes investors feel a bit better too. We're also seeing a bunch of mergers and acquisitions happening in the energy sector right now.
Oh, yeah. The briefing mentioned Diversified Energy and Atlas Energy Solutions making some big moves.
Yeah, Diversified Energy bought Maverick Natural Resources for like $1.3 billion.
Wow.
And then Atlas Energy Solutions acquired Moser Energy Systems for $220 million. So these acquisitions are part of a bigger trend we're seeing with energy companies kind of combining forces.
So it sounds like they're getting ready for more market ups and downs, or maybe trying to lock in their supply chains with all the geopolitical stuff happening.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like they're strategically planning for the future.
So we've got tech with some problems, energy companies joining up, and this general feeling of uncertainty in the markets.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad news. Or the briefing mentioned AT&T doing pretty well.
Definitely, AT&T is a good example of a company doing things right in this crazy market. They reported strong postpaid phone net additions, which basically means they're getting a lot of new customers who are signing contracts.
Hmm.
That's good for their future revenue, and this good performance has actually helped their stock price. It shows that even when things are uncertain, some companies can still do really well.
It's a good reminder that there are always opportunities out there if you know where to look. So we've talked about tech, energy, and telecom. Are there any other big sectors or trends we should be paying attention to?
Well, we can't forget about all the mergers and acquisitions happening.
Right.
Besides those energy deals we talked about, there's another big one. QXO is trying to buy Beacon Roofing Supply, and they've offered like $11 billion.
$11 billion. That's huge. Why roofing supplies, though? What's the strategy there?
It's all about controlling the supply chain and getting a bigger piece of the market for building materials. It seems like QXO is betting big on the future of construction and home improvement.
So they're not just buying a company, they're buying a bigger part of the whole industry.
Yeah, exactly. These kinds of deals can really change entire sectors.
With all this activity across different sectors, it's no surprise investors are being a bit careful. And of course, everyone wants to know what the Fed is going to do next. The briefing mentions the upcoming Federal Reserve meeting a lot. What's all the buzz about?
Well, the Federal Reserve, or the Fed as most people call it, is like the main bank of the United States. They control interest rates, which can really affect the economy and the stock market.
Right. Their decisions can cause big changes in the whole financial system. So what are they expected to do at this meeting?
Well, everyone's watching Chairman Powell.
Mm-hmm.
He's the head of the Fed, and he's trying to find a good balance. He wants to keep interest rates steady to help the economy grow.
Okay.
But he also has to keep an eye on inflation and make sure things don't get out of control.
So he's in a tough spot. And with President Trump back in office, I imagine there's even more pressure on the Fed to make the right decisions.
Definitely, politics always adds another layer of complexity to things.
For sure.
So investors will be watching this meeting closely for any clues about what might happen with interest rates in the future.
So it's a wait-and-see kind of situation with the Fed. But even with all this uncertainty, the briefing does point out some interesting trends and opportunities.
Right. It's important to remember that ups and downs in the market are normal. It's how you react to them that matters. Instead of freaking out, use this time to really understand what's going on in the market.
Okay, so stay informed, don't panic, and use the resources you have, like the Equity AI platform. Good advice.
It's all about making smart decisions based on the information you have.
This deep dive has been really helpful. We've covered a lot from the overall market to specific company stories to the global economic situation.
Right.
It's fascinating to see how everything connects.
Yeah, it's all interconnected, and that's what makes the financial markets so interesting and always changing.
Before we wrap up, let's take a minute to think about what we've learned. What stands out to you as the most important trend or event we've talked about, and why?
Yeah, for me, it's got to be that DeepSeek story. It's a good reminder that AI is still pretty new, and not every cool technology is going to be a success. I agree. It shows that you got to look past the hype and really understand a company's fundamentals, especially with something like AI that's changing so fast. It's easy to get excited about the potential, but investors have to be smart and do their research.
Absolutely. It's a lesson for all of us to remember as AI keeps growing and becoming a bigger part of more industries. What stands out to you?
I think the biggest thing we talked about is that tension between innovation and regulation, especially in the tech world. It's a tough balance. You know, we want to encourage new ideas and technology because that's what drives the economy and progress. But we also got to make sure these innovations are developed responsibly with the right protections in place.
It's like finding that middle ground between progress and safety. Too much regulation can stifle creativity, but too little can have unintended consequences.
Exactly. And finding that balance will be key as AI and other new technologies continue to change things.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about. We've covered market ups and downs, company news, mergers and acquisitions, the Fed, and even global events.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in, but it's all starting to make sense.
That's what we're going for. We want to help you connect the dots and see the bigger picture so you can make better decisions.
I definitely feel more informed and ready to navigate these crazy financial markets. Thanks for guiding me through it all.
My pleasure. I always enjoy sharing these insights and helping people understand what's shaping the financial world.
All right, let's wrap up this deep dive into the markets for January 27th, 2025 with some key takeaways for all you Pantheon AI users out there.
The markets are a bit unpredictable right now, but that's not always a bad thing. Volatility can create opportunities, but you got to be smart about it and really understand the fundamentals. Don't let fear or hype control your decisions.
Great advice. Stay informed. Do your research and use the tools you have like Pantheon AI's Equity AI platform to help you understand what the market's doing.
And remember, investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't get discouraged by the little ups and downs. Focus on your long-term goals.
Before we go, I have one last question for all you listeners out there. With everything we've talked about, what sectors or companies or why are you most interested in watching right now and why? Think about that. And we encourage you to check out Pantheon AI's Equity AI platform. It has all the tools and analysis you need to answer that question. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the latest market trends. So stay tuned.